Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the sixth edition of 4-4. This afternoon, we will focus on our theme, Body as Medium. For those who have never tuned in before, this is typically a situation where I'm talking with three Black women, artists, curators, gallery founders, etc., really focusing on just the women in our creative space and how they're kind of making everything from, whatever we have. So it's a little after 1 o'clock. Today's guests are going to blow you away. And without further ado, I will give them to you. I think maybe, we got a good number of people. Maybe I'll keep going for a little bit so we have a little bit more people. Just want to make sure that no one misses the beginning. Also, a couple things, as usual, housekeeping things. You typically love an active chat, so whatever you all want to say, please go ahead and do so in the chat. There's also a Q&A function, so I'm happy to intersperse your questions within the conversation that we will have a bit later. So please make sure, there should be a Q&A box toward the bottom of your screen in your Zoom interface, so you can go ahead and do that. Yes, hello, Delphine. It's my boo right there. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Go ahead.
You can hear me today?
Yep, I sure can.
All right, then.
Let's go.
Do our thing.
All right. Ooh. Ooh, look at us, we're putting our Fenty beauty on. Shout out to Riri.
Sexy bitches.
There we go. I need a gallery view. Right. Okay, let me see all of y'all. Yeah, speaker view was messing me up. I was like, what's happening?
Okay, I literally look like a Haitian mambo. Like,
I'm about to play some music. I don't care. It ain't gonna sound right on Zoom.
I literally, like, I'm channeling my Haitianness, like, on a reel today.
If you channeling Haitianness, what am I channeling?
About to choke the shit out of myself with these beads.
Girl. Take these out. My hair's too wet to curl. You gotta make this thing like do so much to make it go to your speaker.
For real, like that shit's annoying. Okay, I can't put these beads on.
My clap doesn't do it. Who does? Well, Yana, the last time I wore these in a performance was with you at the August Wilson Center. Remember when I was rolling on the floor and it fell on the it fell out? And then then I stuck it in my head.
I remember
those
that
are
moment
cute.
and looking at you being like, that's my girl. She just took my fake locks and put it in her hair. All right.
You would think my neck grew an inch since last night.
I hope all y'all got this on speaker view, so y'all can just see it. Otherwise, you gonna miss it. We can't make it all jump.
Yeah.
All right. Almost ready to climb.
All right. Here y'all go. I'm I hit one of my plants that are in my ceiling. All right, let's see. Let me make my ancestors proud. What is this? Oh.
Let me put my Fitbit on.
Ooh, zooming and performing, Lord. Okay.
Now I'm in the middle of just removing shit.
I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling?
Hey, Heather Williams.
Check my nails.
Hey.
Hello.
Tired of the bullshit, gone, dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving, yes, Lord. Trying to get some new shit in there, swimwear, going to the pool shit. Come now.
Hello.
You know you a star, you can touch the sky. I know that it's hard, but you have to try. If you need advice, let me simplify. If he don't love you anymore, just walk your fine ass out the door. I do my hair.
What music at?
Woo!
Okay, now, one second.
Hey, Ola.
Hey, Ola. Oh, girl.
Y'all want to hear a funny Ola story? The last one of the panels I was on, oh, Yana saw it. It was with NYU, and I sent Ola the panelist link, and she popped on this.
Oh, that mess was funny. We the worst.
I had to text Ola. I was like, "Yo, get off the screen! Get off the screen!" So yeah, lesson
What was she doing on the screen?
Huh?
What was she doing on the screen?
I gave her the wrong Zoom link. I sent her the link that only panelists are supposed to get.
Oh, Lord.
So she popped up as a panelist. That shit was funny.
It's not finished.
It's not finished.
It's so hard to look at yourself and try to.
It's not finished.
It's not finished.
Stop.
It's not finished.
It's not finished.
It's not finished.
Yeah.
Oh, look at Tsedaye. It's not finished.
Today, what you getting ready for?
Make noise so that it pops to your screen on the speaker view.
You got pops today.
Pop.
I guess I'm not loud enough because it's not coming to my screen.
Okay, you gotta be orgasmic loud.
I'm talking. Hello.
I will not be opening my legs up for this portion. I will be sexy without the legs.
This Ghanaian woman I know, she used to say, or I still know her, she'd be like, I'm no longer taking deposits.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm ready for some deposits. Okay. Okay. It's not finished. It's not finished.
It's not finished.
Ooh.
All right.
It's finished.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you all so much. That was an incredible performance by today's guests, Dominique Duroseau, Ayana Evans, and today Makonnen. I'm super excited to have them here. This is actually the first time that all of the panelists for 4-4 are actually working in performance. So they wanted to bring you an incredible performance, which they did. So if you were, yes, coolest Zoom ever. Thank you, Quincy. Hello, everybody. So again, today we have Dominique, Ayana, and Tsedaye here joining us. Super excited. So I'm going to introduce them each briefly, usually in alphabetical order. So that means Dom, you are up. I'm not sure if the gallery view was working. This is an older computer, so I apologize if it wasn't, because I was trying to look on my phone and then like everything went haywire. I apologize. All right. Dominique Duroseau is a Newark-based artist born in Chicago, raised in Haiti. Her interdisciplinary practice explores themes of racism, sociocultural issues, and existential dehumanization. Her exhibitions, performances, and screenings include Satellite Art and Post-Plan Miami, The Kitchen, the Brooklyn Museum, and the New Museum with Black Women Artists for Black Lives Matter, El Museo del Barrio, Air Gallery, Bronx Art Space, Rush Arts Gallery, and Smack Mellon in New York City, the Newark Museum, Index Art, Project for Empty Space, and Gallery of Pharaoh in New York, New Jersey. Exhibitions and talks include a solo exhibition at Air in Brooklyn, panelist at Black Portraitures at Harvard University, and lecturer at Vassar. She was a fellow at Air Gallery in Brooklyn and received artist residencies from Gallery of Pharaoh, the Wasaic Project, Shine Portrait Studio, Mass Mocha, Norris Foundation, and Artists Alliance. Duroseau holds degrees in architecture and fine arts. Thank you so much. Oh, you didn't put on your glasses? Very excited to have you.
I'm not gonna see if I don't put them on.
Okay, Dom, take it.
Oh, really? For real? This is how we gonna do this shit? God damn. Okay. Let me share my screen then. Hello, everyone. My name is Dominique Duroseau, also known as Dom Duro for some of you. Let me share the screen and just like, you know, hop on over there. Okay. Can y'all see it? Just a minute. Okay, let me just do. So I guess I'll just talk in general. I don't want to like take up too much time. Basically, where I started performance really started from a place where there were no audience, no participatory, no anything. Probably because I was coming from a place where, coming from architecture, the way I was designing, because I was designing for people, I was thinking about performance in that space of like, for people without presence, this aspect of like a lack of presence. And that moved to a space where I was doing performances with audience and participatory. And everything that I've done so far regarding my performances, everything is about feelings basically. And I could use like, you know, a lot of terms to sort of like, you know, explain where the works are coming from, but really is coming from a place of existence, my existence and other people's existence. And this space where I should probably go back for a second. Anytime you see me with that pattern and that mask, or without the mask, especially the pattern, all of that is connected to the series Mammy Was Here. And that whole series really is like going into a space where I'm discussing presence and erasure at the same time. Not only about Black people, but really specifically around like, you know, Black women throughout history and even right now, and that struggle. A space where you're constantly being put in these positions, and space where it's almost like you're pushed in these roles, basically systemically around that are much lower, whether it's like places of servitude or, you know, just that struggle of presence is something that I try to explore and interrogate in different ways. Also because ever since I was young, I've always been in this situation where people find themselves gravitating towards me as this person who it can be their confidant. And this includes people who are strangers. So all of the stuff that I've lived up to this point in my life, everything is pretty much embedded in like, you know, the work that I do. I like to do work without an audience, and maybe we discussed this at some point, but I've done work where I work collaboratively as well as like, you know, with participation, which is very exciting for me. And I've had like, you know, the pleasure of working alongside many, many people that I adore and respect greatly, like me and Ayana in Miami here. And like, you know, this performance actually was a last minute collaboration, and turns out like we rocked the house. I'm not even just like joking around about that. That is what they told us basically afterwards. We were in a space mentally that was very stressful. But what we did was that performance, that collaboration, literally we were in the bathroom getting ready, and like at that moment we were like, we should do this together. And it was the best thing possible. And I love performances that happens in that space, but it couldn't happen with just anyone. It could only happen for me personally with a friend, because the performance really was an extension to our friendship and our conversations daily. So even the shit that we were like doing, like saying like, it's not finished, really was coming from a place of like, you know, us joking around and like, you know, me sharing something with her, and then that got into the performance. So little things like, you know, this space of using sweetness and like, you know, humor to sort of like, or inside joke to just embed into the work is something that I like. And sometimes that just happens organically. It's not always something you sit down and like think about. And I'm very obsessive about how I think about my work. Little things like, you know, in this performance where everything was calculated, like the chain here was like meant to like keep time. The little bit of gingham there where I'm still talking about the mammy without the mask. You know, all these different little elements are things that are like always present in the work. Again, there's this place of like a space of like erasure that I always try to deal with, because me personally, I don't like people looking at me a lot of times. I'm very self-conscious of that. And that gets into a space where like talking about systems where Black women themselves, how they get erased in different ways, whether it's like, you know, roles in like the corporate world or like an institution, or even being killed, and people don't really look for them or think about investigating that a little further. So these works, what I do is there's a combination of interrogation and experimentation that happens, where I try to use things like how people treat me and bring this into the performance. But then I also, while I suspect I know what some of the outcomes will be, I also get surprised a lot of times where people offer kindness in a way where I wasn't expecting it, even if it is a friend. Because I do move about in a way where I don't want my face to be seen. I almost want to become a shadow in the space, even if I am the tallest and the biggest person in those spaces. And how does that sort of translate, how well it translates in like, you know, performance. So even if there's like a barrage of people around, sometimes I can be like, you know, the biggest apple in the room, ready for people to be devouring at me, because that's a feeling that I have to deal with as well constantly. And like, you know, also trying to keep composure in order to be this person where I have to maintain some level of like, you know, kindness, or an attitude of like, you know, I can't be angry, as you know, like as Black women, we always struggle with the aspect where we're not allowed to be angry and all that bullshit. One of the things that I do a lot in my performances, before I go here, one of the things I do a lot in my performances is I emote a lot. I will not be doing that today. And the way I do that sometimes is just like, if I don't want people's energy in terms of like them getting close to me physically, but I still want to sort of like attack their system in a way where I want you to feel me at that moment. Like, it's not about my presence or my body, but it's about that feeling, that transference of feeling and communication. So I usually use like, bad singing in some ways to do that. To sort of go sideways into the series of performance of like, Mammy Was Here or Mama Blackness that you saw before. The one that people mostly know me very well for is like, Rap on Race with Rice, where this one is based off of a Baldwin's conversation with Margaret Mead. That was like 7.5 hour long conversation between two colleagues about issues of race and racism. And basically, I took that idea and used rice as a medium to sort of like hypnotize people to be able to like move the rice in a way where you're splitting it as we're having these like very difficult conversations. And I've done it with so many different people to date. And all of them are very carefully curated in a way where I do really think about who I'm having these conversations with, and because of the spaces I'll be in. So all these things actually like, are very calculated and thought about. And I won't go into that too much. To go back in the space of body, which Rap on Race with Rice is very much about the body, but it's in different spaces, like more mental and less like physical exertion. Again, going into the space of like invisibility, and this one is like performance in the space of Negro Quota. Yana, I don't think you've seen these works yet, because Yana's a huge fan of Negro Quota, and I should say that I was able to revive Rap on Race with Rice because of her. That picture where you see us here with Zach and whatever, this is at Museo del Barrio in Yana's studio space, where she invited me right here on the wall to do my installation, Negro Quota. And I was like, yo, I had this performance that like went caca-poo-poo. Do you mind if like, I bring it? And we're like, yeah. So that same day, Zach was deinstalling his show. And I'm like, yo, you're not going nowhere, stay here. And that day was the best day because we sat there and revived the performance, and it has come so far, and I'm so thankful for all of them because of it, because it's one of my most favorite ambitious projects, and I talk about it and it's so difficult to discuss. So yeah, I wanted to like, say that real quickly. So Negro Quota keeps going on in the space of product and object, but also goes back to the body, because originally it was more of a diagram coming from a space of architecture and diagramming it in the most like, distilled way possible, bringing that again alive with the body, almost like I'm drawing myself in white space and what that looks like. And sometimes I look like a figure and sometimes I don't look like a figure, and that difficulty to navigate. And then again, is if you pay attention to the motif and the like theme of like this aspect of my body and how I shape it and move and pause. And part of it is like part performance, part photography, part movement, limited movement, and then this space of like invisibility and objectification. So it's extremely layered, like, where I want to go. And like, these moments where sometimes you feel trapped, or you're in the space, or you're in a conversation, or sometimes you just feel like you're in the conversation, but you're not there because of how you're being treated. All these things are things that I channel a lot when I do these works. So basically all of my body of work, my practice is kind of like a gumbo pot where everything sort of like, melts into each other. So I've done this purposefully. I try to not have a distinction where I'm like, this is strictly performance, this is strictly sculpture, this is strictly photography. I really want to blend them all, because just the complexity of being a Black woman, a big Black woman alone is hard to even like, describe. And it's difficult to try to put in a few words. And then nevertheless, like, you're trying to like do that in the body of work. It will bleed into each other. So I want to like, you know, quickly go into the space of like eroticism. As a big Black woman in the history of like the mammy has been like a desexualized, like, you know, character and figure. The aspect of desexualizing big Black women is still something that is problematic unless you have that beautiful Coke figure, which I've always envied. There is this space where it's almost like it's not even normal, or like, you know, they try to like normalize the fact that big Black women should not be beautiful or should not be seen as beautiful unless you look a certain way. And sort of like trying to like, for lack of a better word, you know, trying to get my sexy back, basically. What does that work look like, basically? This space where you're still kind of invisible, but then you're trying to search for your own sort of like eroticism, the power of your own body, and heal from like, you know, trauma and all sorts of other things that has like, you know, you've been going through. And it's not just in respect to myself, but it's like any woman or any person who has like struggled in their life, whether it's like, you know, in the space of like just race identity or even in the space of sexual, and how you repair all of that. So all this goes into the space of the work that I do. This is like, you know, a collaboration between me, Tsedaye, and Ayana. They had this amazing idea around like, you know, cellulite, and somehow I made it a little too sexy, basically. And I love this project a lot, and I really wanted to like, you know, play with their presence and their skin, the difference in the skin color, whatever, and just like the shape of their bodies, and sort of like, you know, play with that and highlight that. More of that work goes into like, you know, these very soft, slow aspect of presence, and sort of like the place to have discussions around abstracting life in a way where sometimes you're looking at something, but you can't really truly identify everything. It's okay to not be able to identify everything. And it's okay not to have the background story. It's more like, what is this feeling that you have when you see this thing? So once again, if I go back to architecture, if you walk into a very nice wooden space and you feel home and welcome, you didn't need a sign to tell you that feel warm and welcome. So it's the same for me with a lot of this work. When you see this work, what is it that you feel? Because sometimes I don't want to be present, but I do want people to like, you know, feel my sense of presence, and like, you know, the endangerment of like, you know, these things as well, when you are actively being like erased in some ways. And sometimes this makes you complicit in this space of accepting being invisible, and fighting that at the same time. I'm gonna stop here. Screens. You're.
Oh, we can control it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so how y'all want to do it? Who's going next? Me? Are we just gonna talk now?
Unmuted?
You're right there.
Okay, so I am going to introduce you, Ayana. I'm going to read your illustrious bio. Ayana Evans is a New York City-based artist. Evans earned her MFA in painting from the Tyler School of Art at Temple University and her BA in visual arts from Brown University. In 2015, she received the Jerome Foundation's Theater and Travel and Study Grant for artistic research abroad. During the summer of 2016, Evans completed her installment of the residency Back in 5 Minutes at El Museo del Barrio that we just heard about. The next year, she completed a 10-hour endurance-based citywide performance and 100-person performative dinner party in the Barnes Foundation Museum. During the 2017 A Person of the Crowd Spring Performance, which was a major art survey featuring artists such as Marina Abramovich, Tanya Bruguera, and William Pope L. in Philadelphia. Her international work includes participation in Fiat Performance Festival in Martinique, the Pineapple Show at Tiwani Contemporary in London, and Ghana's Chale Wote Festival, which drew 30,000 people. Evans is a 2018 fellow in the Studio Immersion Program at EFA's Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop, as well as a 2018 resident and grant recipient at Artists Alliance Incorporated, a 2017 to 2018 awardee of the Franklin Furnace Fund for Performance Art, one of the highest awards in performance art in the United States. In 2018, she also received the New York Foundation of the Arts Fellow for Disciplinary Arts Award. And in 2019, she was an artist in residence at Art on the Vine. Shout out to Jessica and co. In addition to her numerous Guerrilla Street performances, Evans has performed at the Queens Museum, Crystal Bridges Museum, Newark Museum, and the Bronx Museum. During 2018 and 2019, Evans completed her first 3 solo exhibitions with Medium Tings, shout out to Stephanie, Cuchifritos Gallery, and EFA Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop with New Art Dealers Alliance at Governor's Island. Her recent press includes ArtNet, New York Magazine's The Cut, Hyperallergic, Bomb Magazine, and the New York Times. Evans is currently an adjunct professor at Brown University. Guan.
All right. Okay, so I feel like I see a million friends up in the comments. So hello, hi y'all, how y'all doing? Where should I start? Let's see. So because it's hard to share video, but I think it's really best that I show video because people, I've been told, don't always get my work when I try to just talk, all right? Or just show an image. Unless you were there, you already noticed it. So I am, true to form, giving some instructions in the comments right now. So you got a 2 or 3 minute, I didn't time it, video that you need to watch. While you watch, I'm gonna just say a couple words. So I just sent a link to the opening performance at Medium Tings, which is run by Stephanie Baptiste. So hopefully you guys can watch it like literally right now, like just switch over, watch it. And I'm showing it because Dom and Tsedaye were there and they were helping me, and you can see it in the video, which I think is beautiful. And you can see other people from the performance community like Nugent Smith. Like you can see us kind of coming together, and you can see like how we work together. I should also say that I really love the idea of blurring real life and performance. Like I don't really enjoy the idea of a stage and a barrier and all of that. So you don't see a lot of that in my work. There's a lot of participation. So I'm gonna give like a 1 minute rest and let y'all view. I do have my Fitbit on, so I'm ready. And I'm gonna add one more link in the video also, in the chat. Oh, I should also say when y'all are done, just put like something in the comment section so I know that I'm not like talking over you and your viewing experience. illusion. All right, I got one watched, done. Okay, so it looks like a few of y'all have already seen it. So I'm gonna share screen. Oh, hey, Khalid, I love you. So let's do this. Some of these you guys have already seen, so I'm gonna try to get to what hasn't been seen. All right, so for the sake of time, I'm gonna try to make this super duper fast. So let's see if I can accomplish that. I don't know. All right, so, oops, sorry. So let's go back to the top. Bam. All right, so I'm not gonna fuss with it to try to make the layout a little bit better. Oh wait, maybe I can use it. There we go. All right, so boom, make that small. That does not work. All right, there we go. So as you guys know, I run around the CAT2. I do a lot of grueling activities. This is it's pulling at me. So this one starts with me just kind of throwing myself against the wall, and then it ends with cartwheels in front of a bus. But this is a midpoint. So I think it's like a nice place to like see what's what. This was in Martinique. I'm not gonna explain a lot of them because it'll just take too long, but you get the gist. Girl, I drink your bath water and then I roll down the block. And yes, I drink it. People ask me that a lot. I do drink it. This is I carry you, you carry me. And I've heard interesting commentary about this, but basically it really honestly was more about friendship than it was about race, but it becomes about race the second I pick up a white person or a white person picks up me. The idea is that I carry you piggyback style and the other person then reciprocates, but it's a metaphor for friendship. Sometimes your friendship is such that your friend carries you in return. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they drop you. It's also about obviously Black women in labor, which is a constant theme in my work. And I could say friendship is too, as is collaboration. Stopping traffic. Jumping jacks. So I do jumping jacks a lot. I haven't done a durational one in a while, but on the left is from the Barnes exhibit, which was a two-part performance. So there's 10 hours outside at different locations in Philly. At each location, I did 50 jumping jacks in addition to some other activity, like wearing my husband sign and running through the street, or I did a random bicycle ride, or, you know, so things throughout the city, throwing apples, crawling up the stairs backwards, the rocky steps. On the right is from Black Girl Lit, which actually Tsedaye was a part of, another collaborative piece. If you look, you can see Marceline in the background there. So a lot of times if I'm not collaborating, the performance community is there in support. So the one on the right wasn't 50, that was like a 2-hour jumping jack piece in the rain. But I really thought the rain made it beautiful. No explanation needed. Oh, but that is Whole Foods at 59th Columbus Circle. A lot of good prospects roll through there. You see my girl. On the right is someone who actually literally came to the US to get married to his husband. So that was like the gift that he bought him and his husband when they got married. This is the image from the Barns. 80 people were seated. After the 10-hour performance, there's a day of rest, and then there's another day where there's a big performance where everyone's seated. I force everyone to screech together, and yeah. This is from the Red Carpet Veggie Harvest, which was done with the Laundromat Project. And the kids got to keep Princess and all that stuff. And organic vegetables that are grown at the garden in the Bronx that they're affiliated with, they were given away to the neighborhood. The idea being to celebrate, which I love the idea of fantasy in everyday life. That's another theme throughout my work. This is also a closing for Medium Team. Obviously, this is me and Tsedaye. This is Martha's Vineyard. And we were happy to crash the grocery store. Also Martha's Vineyard. This was a tribute to Senga and Marin. I should say that this photo and this photo is taken by Tsedaye. And this is the collaboration, the Cellulite series that Dom shot the images, and the legs are Tsedaye and I'm gonna stop the screen share. I think that's enough. Oh, I should also say that like what you saw at the beginning is related to the Fluxus art movement. And I should definitely shout out Sir Rodney, sir, because I think that watching how he moves within the art world has been a big influence on me. So if you don't know him, you should get to know him. I should also say Jeff Hendricks is someone else you should look up if you don't know, who was Sir's partner for many, many, many years. I'm trying to think if you need anything else. I think that about covers it. I'm pretty much an open book, so whatever comments that we don't get to, you are welcome to email me, like through my website or whatever, and I'll put stuff in the chat so it's easy to streamline it. All right, I guess that's it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So next we have Tsedaye Makonnen. Tsedaye Makonnen is an interdisciplinary artist whose studio, curatorial, and research-based practice threads together her identity as a daughter of Ethiopian immigrants and a Black woman. As well as her experience as a doula and a mother. Makonnen invests in the trans-historical forced migration of Black communities across the globe. She is the recent recipient of a Smithsonian Artist Research Fellowship, DC Public Library Maker Residency, the DC Oral History Grant, and Art on the Vine Savage Lewis Artist Residency in Martha's Vineyard. She has performed at the Venice Biennale, Miami Art Basel, Chale Wote, Street Festival in Ghana, El Museo del Barrio, Vendika, Cultural Center in Ethiopia, Festival International d'Art Performance in Martinique, at the Queen's Museum, and has more venues. She has spoken on migration and intersectional feminism at the Hirshhorn, at Black Portraitures, at Common Field, at New York University, and elsewhere. Her light monuments memorialize Black women across the diaspora and have been exhibited at August Wilson Cultural Center and the National Portrait Gallery. In 2019, she was on the cover of the Washington City Paper's People issue. That year, in response to Christophe Buchel's Barca Nostra that put Black death on display at the Venice Biennale, Makonnen staged 2 performative interventions in front of the migrant boat that was installed in Arsenal. Thus far in 2020, she has been in 3 exhibitions: at August Wilson Cultural Center, curated by Kilolo Luquette. Shout out to Kilolo, you're here, so thank you for being here. In collaboration with Ayana Evans, at Maryland Institute Culture of Arts, curated by the God, Deborah Willis, and at Latchkey Gallery, including a durational performance at the Africa Center, both in New York City. This month, she curated a virtual exhibition called Black Woman as and the Living Archive, based on Alicia B. Wormley's film, Children of Nan, at Washington Projects for Artists. This August, She will unveil a new commission for the Park Avenue Armory's 100 Years, 100 Women with New York University's photo department and Dr. Deborah Willis. Thank you so much, Tsedaye, for being here. I'm gonna unmute you and spotlight your video.
Hey, all right. Real quick, thank you. I just put the link to the Black Women as and the Living Archive because it's still up. You can catch Alicia Wormsley's film along with Lisa E. Harris's until the end of this month, as well as like all the footage from the bomb ass performances that Autumn Night did, Jasmine Hearn, go down the list. Yes, Delphine. Delphine's also a part of the same like group with the Park Armory and Deb Willis. Anyways, hey y'all. I, like Yana will probably I'm gonna show some videos. I do wanna, like, it's funny watching Dom and Yana before me, it brought up so many memories and made me realize like, we've collaborated so much that I don't remember at this point how many times it's like, whether like Yana said that we're on the same bill, like there's been so many nights that either all three of us or two of us and then the other person was the audience, you know, was showing up at Grace Exhibition Space or Panoply in Brooklyn. Shout out to Esther, Laylee, Elizabeth Lamb, who have really cultivated the performance art scene and just kind of, yeah, we are here because of them and vice versa. Like, but I will say real quick story. The first time that Ayana and I met, I know Dom and I met later, but soon after, I was doing my first solo performance at Panoply in 2014, 2015. And it was about colorism. I had a whole series and I still work on it, but it's kind of been on the back burner about like skin bleaching. And I actually put bleach on my body and I used a corner store brand saran wrap, which was dumb because during my practice, I used the real like saran wrap brand and it protected my body. But because I used the corner store like bodega version, that shit did not work. And the bleach went through my pants and yeah, so basically the performance was cut short because I had to run into Panoply's bathroom and like take everything off, jump in the shower. It was a whole thing. But of course, like Panoply, like if you're around real performance artists, nobody gives a shit because that's part of the game. Burning yourself, cutting yourself, bleeding, breaking something. So it went without any kind of like alarm, which was funny. But Yana ended up coming because Laylee was in the audience. It was like, yo, there's this Black girl putting bleach on herself. You need to come. And since then we've been homies, all three of us. And yeah, so that was a quick story. But I will start with, so my screen is a whole mess, just to give y'all a heads up, but I'm here. Where is, now, of course, the thing that I want to share is not popping up. There we go. All right. Just to give you quick background. So I make these light sculptures that are based on Ethiopian Coptic crosses. They are mirror acrylic, so they're reflective, and they also create these patterns that reflect on these shadows that the patterns are reflected onto your body or the walls. I grew up around these crosses. They come from a pre-Christian history, and then Christianity adopted them. I love them and I'm obsessed with them because they are universal patterns, but they're Black as fuck, and as well as they're very feminine. And like Dom and Yana's work, my whole practice centers Black women and feminism, womanism. So these light sculptures, if you see they're laser cut, so those little pieces I have then recycled into using, here's another one. This is at the August Wilson Center, the first debut of them because of Kilolo Luckett in 2018. She's a phenomenal curator that helped me, help my vision become reality. And so those pieces I end up putting onto fabric or textiles that I end up wearing in performances. So this is the very first dress that, I didn't make the dress, but I attached all those mirror pieces from the light sculpture, the negative space. What I forgot to mention is that each light box is named after a different Black woman or girl or self-identifying Black woman who's died from state-sanctioned violence, or here in the US, due to police brutality, domestic violence, patriarchy, what have you, white supremacy, and then also has died migrating to Europe from East Africa. So when I wear these textile pieces, I'm actually embodying the women. I feel very spiritually connected to them. I also through performance, because I feel like performance is a way to conjure all kinds of things, because it's ritualistic and it's highly like spiritually potent. I ask these women to come through me, essentially, and they do. So this is called the Astral Sea. I have 2 of these. I'm making the 3rd one for the Park Armory show, 100 Women, 100 Years. And as you can see, these have hundreds of those mirror pieces that's the negative space of the mirror, of these mirror light sculptures, which is a whole nother layer. And I'm gonna show you a video, but before, to give you context, I went to the Venice Biennale in 2019 twice, in May, the opening weekend, and then I went back in November, the closing weekend. The opening weekend, I did a rogue performance, inserted myself, which Ayana, Dom, and I do very well. And I think the best performance artists do as well. It was an intervention in front of the migrant boat that got put on display by Christophe Michel and the Biennale. So this was my protest for them to put Black Death on display. 800 to 1,200 migrants died on this boat. And I was there to be like, calling them out. This is disgusting. And I went, and also I was met by racial profiling, police trying to stop the performance. One person said to me, this is afterwards, like, weren't you afraid of getting banned? Fuck no is my answer. Like, what the hell? Like, why would you, how dare you think that this was appropriate to put a ship that Black people died on and drowned in because of the racist policies that Europe has against migrants. So here's a video from the November performance I went back with. You'll see that I have the Astral Sea piece, the fabric piece with the mirror pieces in it. And I'm gonna just play it for y'all. It's not playing, let's see. Sorry, y'all. Maybe not. This is, oh, it's doing the buffering. Give me one, okay, there we go. I was being impatient, sorry. And I still am. Let me leave this thing alone. I think my laptop is like mad because it's so full right now.
I think today it may also be because you are sharing that specific screen and not the screen that the video is on.
I see. Let me see. Should I put all these away?
Or maybe you want to start new share.
Oh, okay, bet. I can do that. Although now I'm like, where are, stop share. There we go. Okay, got it. Sorry, y'all, real quick.
Mercury is in retrograde.
Girl, and I'm a Gemini, so it's like my ruling planet is just not cute. Okay. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't know. It's still not working. Okay. Well, I can provide a YouTube link as soon as I'm done talking. There is there's like a 45-second clip that's on YouTube. But basically, again, the cops try to stop me. What was interesting about going back in November was that I did alert Ralph Rugoff and the Biennale that I was coming, and I wasn't asking for their permission. And that they invited Solange Knowles, which Yana knows this because I had hit her up about this, to do because the Venice at that time had just had their flood, which, you know, that's a devastating thing. It definitely was nowhere near what Katrina went through, or not Katrina, I'm sorry, New Orleans went through with Hurricane Katrina. However, they asked Solange to come and bless the city for healing and, you know, heal the Venetians. I thought it was interesting because they were against me providing healing and a memorialization for the Black people that died on that boat. So just, and no shade to Solange. You know, she's an entertainer. I don't know if she was aware of what was happening behind the scenes, but all right. So I will move on to Oh, here's a fun picture. Can y'all see that? Yes, this is from Martinique, going back to 2017. This is Ayana and I in the water. This is just kind of an example of how avant-garde we are and abstract our performances can be. And let's see. I keep losing you guys. Okay. And then I can share some of the stuff that we did in Martha's Vineyard, where we took over the island. So if this works, I don't know. My computer is like totally, it was just like, nah, we ain't doing this today. Maybe not, y'all. Let's see if this one will work. This is the one that Dom did. No, sorry guys. I have no idea. My computer is just like straight buffering and is like, I'm not working for you. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I wanted to show y'all videos. The other thing that I do use a lot are pelvic bones. This is a part of the crowning series. You can go on my Instagram page and find a bunch of images of me in Nigeria, Ethiopia, Martha's Vineyard, at the August Wilson Center with these. This kind of relates to my experience as a Black mother in this country. As a Black worker, I used to be a former doula, and just the treatment of Black women giving birth in this country and the medical industrial complex. So it's all about reproductive rights as well, but for Black women specifically, because we are treated differently. Dom is texting me. She's probably trying to tell me like what I can do to, yeah. So I will let y'all take over because my computer is just not trying to cooperate. Let me see, cancel. I think if I clear out some stuff, oh, maybe this will work. Let's see. Maybe it'll work now. This is so strange. Sorry, y'all. I've done like a bunch of these and stuff worked before. So I'm gonna just let y'all take over. I can tell more stories.
We can't hear you, Nia.
We're gonna talk together. So
yeah,
we'll take over together. So first of all, again, thank you all so much. Thank you for bearing with me through apparently the technical difficulties that only existed on my computer. So I appreciate it. I appreciate all of the vigor that you all have brought and rigor that you've brought to this conversation series with your presence today. And of course, that incredible performance that you opened with. So again, we haven't talked a little bit specifically about the name of this, Body as Medium. And of course, in what each of you have said, you've sort of touched on it, but I want to kind of drill into that a bit more. And just thinking about the ways that each of you are activating your body in conversation with our history, in conversation with history itself. So I don't know if you have specific thoughts that you'd like to share on that. And we'll also get into these Q&A questions shortly. Anybody?
Thoughts about our bodies?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, wait, what do you exactly mean? Thoughts about our body or thoughts about our...
Just like the journey of using your body as a medium. You're raising your hand. I don't know when raised hands, what it means on Zoom.
I know, right? I'll talk a little bit. Like, I'm super self-conscious, period. If you know me, the closer I am with you, I'm more lax and like, you know, I could be myself. I'm like hella silly. People see me because I'm tall, I'm big. The impression is this looming figure of like just seriousness, especially if I don't smile. And even if I do smile, you know, it's something that it's the space of like using your body in performance and the aspect of system of display that's like always on, especially in public. And then the fact that you have to be almost in sometimes in performance mode, basically, like as a teacher, me and Yana, we be talking about that. Like, you know, just I would get out of the classroom, the first thing I do, I'll be like, ooh, girl, like, you know, and this space of like, the exertion of your body is like mental body display, how you project, how things are projected onto you. And because of my stature, a lot of times I just don't like the energy that is like, you know, coming at me. So in performance, the reason why I cover myself a lot is because of those things. Part of it is like a protection in some ways. And a lot of times I've done performance where I'm not even present. And those are my favorite ones because part of it is I enjoy the space where performance becomes this thing where I'm not the one there. You are feeling me without me being there. And those are my favorite ones. And that really goes back to architecture, like being someone who's designing for people, and eventually people will be inhabiting the space and you're not there. They're not even thinking about the architect. I think about my performance practice where I bring in that aspect of architecture into it, where I want to do performances where people are dealing with these feelings and sort of like doing these actions or things that I tell them to do without my physical body being there. Because what happens to me a lot of people, I've had people randomly stop me in the street just wanting to hug me, to say like, you know, can I hug you? They want to hug me. And the weirdest thing, I'll be on the bus, I'll be on the train, people tell me their life stories, people just want to dump on me. And I use those in the performance, but there are times where I have to protect myself. Because I'm so empathetic, I'm always trying to figure out, I want to do this in part in performance, but there's this moment where I just want to put a shield up. And oddly enough, when I partner with my friends, like, you know, whether it's Ayana Tsedaye, Nugent, even on one or two occasions, Zach was there, or Michael Paul Brito, they become my shield in some ways, where they kind of protect me from people being like, you know, directly in contact with my energy. And it helps a lot because sometimes I just don't want it. You know, I just rather emote as opposed to get the transference back to me. We can't hear you, Niyama. You're muted.
Okay, I just want to press reset maybe on the day. I was saying, I don't know if Tsedaye or Ayana wants to address that at all. And if not, we can move on to like new questions and thoughts.
I can just give a brief. I mean, performance in the body is just like you know what? I think sometimes people don't think of it this way, but like if you're a performance artist, then your body is your medium, right? But it's the same as if paint were your medium in a way. So I understand the question, but I also feel like there's almost no answer, like, or no concise answer, because it's like, well, how do I feel about using paint? I don't really know, but it's what I use, you know? As far as being self-conscious, I know, Dom, I can totally relate. Like, people think that I'm wearing this catsuit because I think I'm the flyest thing around or something like that. Or the critique that I actually really hate hearing is, she just wants attention. And I think the idea of you doing all of this with your body because you want attention is sexist, misogynistic. I mean, it's just downright hateful and dismissive of the work. But I will say that I used to really work very hard to cover up my body. And when I was a painter, and I think all of us come from other backgrounds. Like, so as a painter, like, I think I still think like that. Like, I like color composition. Like, I want this red to be in the middle, because to me, if you take it away, it's a little too bland, like the color of the whole screen becomes. So yeah, my body is the medium, but I'm still thinking a little bit like a painter in some ways. And I think of my actions like abstract actions in a similar way as I would think of abstract painting. So like you see abstract painting, there's like 10 meanings in one thing. I think of the performances the same way. And I think of the body the same way. So I'm kind of working through my insecurities in front of you as I wear this outfit. And I make rules for myself. Like I don't wear Spanx ever when I have this on. I never try to somehow tighten it or make it look, you know, if my belly's bloated that day, you see pictures, it's just bloated that day. So I think you have to really think about your body in terms of it being your tool. Like I go to a trainer. So I think that's part of it, but at the same time, like it's hard to say like, okay, what does it mean that it's your medium? It just means that it's your medium. Doesn't mean much other than that, but people don't always treat it as, okay, your body is your medium and that's what you're working with. And I accept that. People almost want to say, well, why? I feel like that's the underlying question behind that a lot of times. Why is your body your medium? But it's my chosen. It's more direct for me, but it's my chosen. You know what I mean? So for me, painting wasn't in your face enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, like, I wasn't asking it from like a place of.
No,
like,
I don't think you were, but I just know that it comes up a lot, not just from you, but from a lot of people. I've noticed it, like the medium question is where people stop and they don't always go past that to get to like, what are you doing and why? And not just like, because people don't, you know, if I was working with clay, they don't really delve into the medium that much because they kind of understand it. But with the body, for some reason, even though we all have bodies, I don't know, it always, maybe because I love it so much and I live so much in this weird abstract world that I'm just like, when people ask, I'm like, wait, what? Why doesn't it make sense? Why isn't it without, you know? So I always feel like I can't answer it right. That makes sense.
I mean, one is real personal, right?
Yeah.
Super personal. Two, like we are Black women. So just by virtue of that fact alone, how our bodies are read by others is just gonna already create some dissonance before we even get into whatever the movements and actions are. Tsedaye, did you wanna?
Sure. I just realized the spotlight was on me the whole time. I'm listening to y'all and like nodding my head and I was like,
whoops. My bad indeed. Let me see. Is it still? It should be. I think it's supposed to be.
Oh, now it's moving. She's right.
Yeah, now
it wasn't moving before.
I was fine with it not moving.
Yeah, it's cool.
Did you you unpinned it or whatever it is? I'm just getting the hang of this Zoom on this computer, so I apologize.
It's okay. I was just so like engaged with listening to y'all speak. Then I looked over and I was like, wait, I think it's on me.
I think that's gonna be your reaction, like.
And nobody said anything. It's great. It's great.
Right. I mean, to everything y'all said, I do. Yes, I can. You know, like I came in. It's interestingly enough, my gateway into performance was working with clay. So I guess it was more so sculpture, and then I got into this. But I think for similar reasons as Dom and Yana, I realized that I could, all of the ideas that I had, I could much more relay them faster and more direct through my body. So that's why performance became really appealing. And but also that like the layers to the objects that we make, like the fact that Yana always wears the cat suit, Dom always uses these different black and white fabrics. I always have this pelvic bone with me, or I wear the Ethiopian cape, kappa, which also like that's a dig on hierarchy, which a lot of us also do. But I think that there's many answers to it. I guess like for me, using my body is a way for me to tap into something else. Cause like Dom said, like I check out when I'm performing most of the time, which is why it's really a bad look to ask performance artists to speak right after a performance. You know, like sometimes like the adrenaline is just right and you can like shoot off answers, which Ayana you did that in Martinique after you did the bathwater joint and you rolled down the street. You snapped your cat suit at this one guy because he was heckling. It was a whole thing. And I'll never forget, she got right up and sat in a chair and was like, all right, I'll take your questions. And I'm looking at her like, you're great.
I thought lot of that is part of the performance. I was like, bet. Now they want questions, you give them questions.
Right.
Scrape your skin, roll down the street, all of that. Let's take questions.
Right. And you timed it because you had to throw up too for the to get you're like, but I can say that I've had, I've been asked by, and this is like, again, this is this lack of understanding that a lot of people have of performance art. I've been asked by galleries like, drive up to New York, which takes 4 hours, make a piece. I will have one of those like fabric pieces that I have like made weeks, months, or have to like knock out in the weekends to make, create a video to project onto me while I'm perform, and then they want me to talk afterwards. Like, I'm like, that's asking a painter right after a painting that they spent, like, that they, I don't know, like, it's just the amount of labor that is expected of performance artists is strange because we're using our bodies. Like, we're using the one thing that, like, that requires a lot of energy. And like Ayana said, it's like everybody has bodies. So it is strange that, like, for some reason, performance artists are expected to give that extra labor, like, I don't know. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think about that a lot because, yeah, what's required of me, even as a Black woman, I'm just like, yo, I made these light sculptures. I became a DIY lighting engineer overnight, and I made this fabric, and I'm putting this performance together, and I'm the filmmaker, and I'm the, writing the performance score, and I'm, and it's like, it's a lot.
I think what, as I stand back in this interesting position that I'm in this moment, we can talk individually about that later, but there's so much lack of respect of people's labor in this space specifically. And it's just like, what do we do about that? I don't know. But let's get into some more questions. We'll come back to this question of labor. So Clorinda asked a question that I feel like is also, someone else asked a similar question. Let's see, let's get into these because it's 2:15. So this happens where we go into overtime, and I feel like that's about to happen. Is everybody okay with like continuing for maybe like another 45 minutes?
I'm delicious.
Oh Lord. All right. So Clorinda asked a question that's sort of been addressed, but I feel like I want to see it more pointedly attacked. So Clorinda McLeod has asked, you all began your art lives within a non-performance visual art background. What are one of the probably many catalysts that drew you to performing? Whoever.
Well, I mean, I think I kind of answered that before. That
the immediacy.
Yeah, the immediacy of performance art. And then also, and I know we've talked about this together, Dom and Ayana and I, that you're allowed to like fuck shit up in performance art in a way that you can't really do that in the other mediums. Also, I think because we're paid the least, we give a fuck less, to be honest. And all of those, there's a freedom in performance art that I don't think the other mediums have. And I'm even though I work with other mediums, I really appreciate being a part of the performance art scene because it's just so free. Like, I myself have become so much more comfortable with my own body. Like, that's what that Cellulite series is about, partially. Like, yeah, so, okay, I'll let y'all take over, but.
Okay, what drew me? I mean, basically, some of it was financial. I should say that. Like, some of it was that I was living in a very small apartment in New York, and as a painter, I was trying to make very small paintings, and that somehow kind of petered off into me not painting at all. And then I go into fashion, and then I do love art so much, and I had to learn it the hard way that I can't quit. So. I figured out, well, I would do it for free and I would do it no matter what. So then I went back into art, but the immediacy of performance is what drew me when I came back to it. So that's kind of just where I sat. Like, that's kind of why it's performance at this point for me. But like today, I still make things. Like I do a lot of printmaking, and a little bit of painting, but I always keep those to myself. I don't think they say what I wanted to say, so I don't know if that answers the question enough, but
yeah, it's up to you. So Dom, I think are you?
It really is a combo. I guess in some ways. I mean, I grew up watching Looney Tunes and Scooby Doo and like, you know, and the Three Stooges and shit like that, and mimicking that. And there's this weird aspect of me where I think I told you guys this. I definitely told this recently to Yana, where I was like, I took a drama class, and it really was like a drama as literature class, you know, kind of thing. But what drew me really into performance was watching performance artists, watching people who are somewhat like my peers in a way where I understood, and they weren't my peers yet. I should say that. I didn't know these people. Like, I knew Ayana's work before I met Ayana, before we spoke. I stalk a lot of the people who are my friends right now, where I would like literally study them and be in love with their work and just be in the space where I'm like feeling something. The reason why I'm in art, period, because like, you know, like I said, my background is in architecture, really was a performance piece that I saw. And I literally was in tears and I was feeling all kinds of way. And I was realizing the thing that I wanted to do in architecture, I already knew the barriers that presented itself. I could potentially do this in art, not realizing yet that I would ever do performance. As much as I loved it, I was too self-conscious to even think about the fact that I could put my body in that space to be able to do that. But really, my true introduction into art was really watching a video performance of someone and just being floored and just like was like, oh, that's my direction. This is my future. And I want to be able to do that, basically have people feel without being present and being present at the same time. So that's what really, that was my catalyst.
Brilliant. Okay. Next one is from David Rios Ferreira. I'm probably mispronouncing Ferreira. That's wrong too. It's fine. I love you though. It's fine. For all the artists, many of you mentioned elements of this, but can you talk more specifically about how spirituality, communication with ancestors, the idea of channeling, ideas of empathic abilities, how spirituality informs and plays out in the production or development of your work?
Today, you want to start?
I was half listening, but just because I was like begging my son to get me some water.
I'm sorry, I just tossed you out there. I was like, go today.
That's helpful.
Like, can you say it one more time for me? I'm sorry.
Hey.
He waved.
You're gonna wave off camera after you just came in? Like, that's what you're gonna do? That's all right. For all the artists, many of you mentioned elements of this, but can you all talk more specifically about how spirituality, communication with our ancestors, the idea of channeling, ideas of empathic abilities, how spirituality informs and plays out in the production or development of your work?
Okay. Yes. It goes through a lot of my work, through pretty much all the mediums that I work with. I mean, that's something personal. I can't say that for all performance artists, but I do think the three of us on here do channel lots of stuff. But I don't know, like here's a great example. When I went to Venice the second time, it was really intentional. The first time I was reactive because I was pissed. I was watching all these white people take selfies in front of this boat, eating and drinking, kikiing it up in front of this boat with all these Black people who died on. So that was a reactive performance. I purposely was trying to piss off the Biennale. I played a song that Italians are very embarrassed or ashamed by, called Facetta Nera, means little blackface. If you follow my work, I use it a lot. And the second time I went, though, it was with the intention of like, I am going to memorialize the deaths of these people on this boat, and I'm bringing the women that my light sculptures are dedicated to with me, because they were on this textile piece that I was going to wear, and I'm bringing them and connecting them to the people on this boat who died. And I did my own personal prayer, but even on, these, on the textile pieces, it's the abstract version of these Ethiopian Coptic crosses that, by the way, Dom, are also heavily influenced by Haitian veves, which to me they are these universal codes for Black people to heal and protect us.
Yes, I'm sorry, I had to.
Okay, I always wanted to ask you about that. I'm like, is she telling some like Veve shit? Like,
Can we talk about this? I'm sorry. Let's have a moment. I'm sorry, Tsedaye, but I feel like
real. Like there are times I look at those things and like you almost make. I'm taking over your time, my bad. But like I be thinking, you get me want to sing some shit.
Take it easy. We're not ready for that just yet.
Go ahead, Tsedaye.
I think, I think those symbols are like, this may be an offline conversation. Go ahead.
No.
Okay. Like that? How you gonna leave us hanging like that?
I know, right?
That's offline. Like what? You can't do it like that.
It's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole. And we're already, it's, you know what I'm saying?
All right.
No, people in the comments like
no, please tell us. Okay, fine. All right. So I don't know if anybody here actually saw the Hilma af Klint show.
I saw it virtually.
I didn't. I saw it online, but I didn't see it in person.
Oh, girl.
I missed it. Everybody said that it was super spiritual, an experience. Like
do it through the computer screen.
Nah. Yeah, I'm like tearing up thinking about it.
See, that's what other people said to me about it.
Yeah.
Like,
so at the time I was also reading Flash of the Spirit. And I was like, how are these the same symbols and shapes? What Hilma was what is going on? And if you know the sort of lore about that work, she made it a point that work couldn't be showed until I think 20 years after her death. And actually, wrong wrist. There's a whole story about this. We'll talk about this another time. But this symbol is theoretically a Germanic symbol. It means it's the hands of God, so it represents the omniscience and omnipresence of God in all things. But if you ever look up the Veve Legba, it's mad similar. This whole, like I said, rabbit hole, whole conversation about what these universal symbols mean and how they can be something that we look at and think about. But continue.
I love the rabbit holes. Like,
right?
Keep that up. Like, I live for that. Like, that's so interesting.
Congolese cosmograms, which have been found in Black churches here in the South, carved into walls. Like, it's all connected, and we are all sending each other messages all the time.
All the time, exactly. All the time.
And the interesting thing about it is we look at it and we know.
Yep.
Like without knowing. So this notion of like, your blood has all the information that it needs to have, right? So yes, Adinkra symbols. I didn't see the name, but I just saw Adinkra symbols. I mean, there's Congo symbols. There's like all of these cosmologies that ultimately are drawing on the same source material. Epigenetic memory is what I like to think about that as, because like, for example, I try not to like talk about my own stuff here, but really quick as we are on this topic of symbols. So like I said, I got this tattoo maybe like 10 years ago. And I remember, so there's the 2 wrist tattoos. This is an Adinkra symbols, and Saroma means child of the heavens. And I remember feeling different, like when I got these tattoos. It's interesting. But also, first show, like 4 years ago, had this vision of having a video installation. That's not what happened at all. That was at Corridor Gallery, literally the corridor. Dom is smiling because I feel like she knows what I'm about to say. So the show included what was supposed to be a video installation by Roger Bonheur Agard. It was basically this super crown poem that he had written called How the World Was Made. And in it, he like, the poem, or the person, the main character in the poem, this series of poems, wakes up as a human, but they were a spider before, and they wake up as a human, and the whole poem is them trying to figure out like how to like move through the world as a person now. And so really bringing that Anansi, bringing that energy into it. And so I was like, well, what do I do? And immediately I was like, I have to build an altar. What needs to be on it? Sandalwood and all of these other things and rum. I don't know that, right? I don't know that. But I look it up, and surely enough, I was thinking about like, what is the like corresponding figure that would be most appropriate in conversation with Anansi? The answer was Legba. I look it up, surely enough, sandalwood, and I believe cinnamon was the scent. And I was like, oh shit. If you know anything about Yoruba cosmology, Legba is the person who stands at the gate. You don't go anywhere. You don't contact anybody else unless you go through him first. Mind you, this installation was literally in a corridor. Literally. Exactly. And I was like, and then I looked up the symbol, and it was mad similar to this in the inside of my wrist. And I was just like, wow. Yeah. Okay. We here. I'm gonna just do what I've been told to do and move on. But yes, I'm gonna stop talking. Go.
Yeah. Well, okay. Real quick on the tattoo tangent. I don't have any tattoos, but I'm finally clear that I want one for the first time. And the one that I want is this cross, which I know Ayana's seen and maybe other people, but I wear it all the time. It's an Ethiopian Coptic cross that is one of the ones on my light sculpture. Mm-hmm. And this one's special because it's like my mom, the first time I went back to Ethiopia with my mom, when I was 8, it was her first time after having to like escape Ethiopia because of the revolution and stuff like that, which, backstory, Jan and I in discussion realized like it was around the same time. So the time that my parents migrated here to the US was around, or her parents a little earlier migrated from the South from Mississippi to Chicago, essentially, right? Am I right? Like we were talking about that kind of crossover.
Yeah, like the second wave.
Yep, the second wave. Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyways, this I just found out recently from Dagmar Yemir, who's the Ethiopian Italian filmmaker I collaborated with when I went to Venice Biennale in November, who, shout out to him, he's been documenting the stories of African migrants for many years. He himself did the trek from Ethiopia to Libya, across the Mediterranean into Italy. The reason why I'm like gassed about this symbol, because I've been so obsessed with it for so long, and there's all this like feminine history related to it that I found at the African Art Museum, but it means Afro Aigavam in Amharic, which means the literal meaning is never goes back ashamed. And the indirect meaning is that when it's taken out by the monks, in Lalibela specifically, the rock cut church, its duty is to heal or do miracles before being placed back in the church. So anything in its sight that sees it is healed. So yeah, I'm getting this on my body. That's all I got to say.
Lovely. I love that.
Yeah.
Protection.
I think the symbols that we put on our body are really important.
Protection.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So Dominique answered, were you finished? Sort of, maybe?
I'm done.
Okay. Ayana, I probably need to reread that question. It's been like 15 minutes.
Oh, no, you don't have to.
Okay.
I don't really know how to answer it, but I'm gonna stab at this. I think that for me, it is almost subliminal in a way, because I do really do kind of leave myself when I perform. And I think there is definitely spirituality in that. And a lot of times when I'm making things, I'm thinking about, or they're actual literal references to relatives of mine who are living or dead, very distinct. Like when I drink the bath water, it's always palm olive soap that I use. And it's because that's what my grandmother used. And so there's little things like that always throughout. And I do that on purpose. And there's a comfort for me in that. I won't say that I'm so much I don't think I exhibit spirituality in a way that is I think it's less direct, if that makes sense. It's direct in the sense of yeah, things are coming through your body, like you were saying with the rum, you hadn't looked it up, but you knew. So there's that, but there's not a direct in terms of purposely saying this symbol. Do you know what I mean? Usually I don't have symbols, so there's that, but it's there. I think sometimes it's there, and I realize lately people don't know it's there. They think that I'm doing something a little more happenstance than it actually is, which, don't get me wrong, love happenstance. But I mushed a banana on my face on Instagram not long ago. And I know it seemed oh, you mushed a banana and that's it. But my grandmother used to say, you should put banana on your face as natural facial. And it does work. It kind of smears out my eczema real nice. So when I eat a banana, sometimes I'll just rub the peel on my face. And I do it at home in private. I never talk about it in person. But I do think about her when I do it, So it's when I do it in a performance, even if I'm and being all there's a part of me that's doing that because I'm why is she dead? And why did she have to ever work as a maid? And why did, there's a bit of that there. So I think that's kind of how you see it without being explained usually in my work.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, that kind of has been answered already.
Also, real quick, I think Ayana hit something. Anger is such a great channel. And that comes through all of our work all the time, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So there's some really good questions here. There's this one from Ayana Tsedaye. Long question with context. One thing I work through, and I would like the three of you to speak more about potentially, is how the liminal space of Black women's bodies often acts as the passage between what is human in quotes, and what is non-human in the world. We're passed through to get to something by others, literally and metaphorically speaking, especially in the arts where theory exercises itself through Black women's bodies. The question is, how does performance in each of your practices help you either expand that liminality in today's performance practice, doing ancestor reverence to make her body a passageway, make it concrete, in Dom's practice, materializing what is often unspoken about Black women's existence, mentality, and the unwarranted emotional labor that we dump on Black women, and or drawing out the ambiguity of the in-between, with Ayana playing upon durationality, time, repetition as a sort of catch and release practice we're doing rather than what is represented as the focus. Thank you and love you all. We love you too. Thank you for this great question, Ayana.
Dom, I think you should start.
I can.
First of all, Ayana, I don't know why you asked. That's a good question. I'm not gonna. But I'm in the headspace. I'm oh man, when I see you next time, Ayana, I'm gonna bite you. Oh man. So much.
She said no. That's hilarious.
So much to unpack. Good Lord. I'm feeling. God, I feel like I almost can't even answer the question. How do I answer this question?
Do you want me to reread it for you?
Yeah, one more time. Just not the whole thing, just the beginning.
Yeah, I got you. The question is, how does performance in each of your practices help you either expand the liminality, make it concrete, is what was referenced specifically. Your practice materializing what is often unspoken about Black women's existence, mentality, and the unwarranted emotional labor that we dump on Black women.
I think I'm operating in a space where where it's almost like I'm trying to say it's not concrete, because I think because man, I feel like I could be here for a while, and I'm trying to figure out how to shorten the answer. I think because first of all, I'm really starting from me. Let's be clear. I'm starting with me. And especially with the recent works that I've been doing, like, you know, especially around the space of eroticism, those works, when people see them, I get different readings and reactions, which is perfect. Like, you know, I don't want to feed people like this, like, thing to, like, you know, start off with. So I think the thing is, whenever I'm trying to develop this work, part of it is, it really is just difficult to materialize some of the things that I feel. So I don't know if I said this earlier today when I was talking. I'm a very emotional person. When I say emotional, I'm not saying like, you know, I go crazy and but like, you know, whatever. It's just like I feel a lot. And even when I'm talking to someone, I could feel someone's, like, you know, whatever, on the phone or wherever. And because I feel a lot, sometimes to try to take a fraction of that and turn it into, like, you know, work, just like an ability to just like try to get there. And I layer a lot of things. It's like very, very difficult. Like, you're trying to talk about, again, with the Mammy Was Here series as a whole, Ayana, I don't know if I'm answering your question very well, but as a whole, the best way for me to talk about that series, it's really talking about presence and erasure at the same time. It's very difficult to talk about Black women's existence and their body and how they live and being erased at the same time. And when I talk about erase, there's a level of violence that happens. It's not always physical, it's mental. And because you don't see it, a lot of violence that happens on the Black body can be so invisible. Now you're trying to do work where you're trying to discuss that invisibility and trying to get people to get a sense of it. This is where the abstraction comes into play. Before meeting Ayana Evans, I saw one of her performances, and if no one has seen it, I'm sure it's still on YouTube, where she's dragging this heavy ass fucking table and no one was helping her as she's dragging this thing. And I was just in tears because that movement, I didn't need to read anything, but I was feeling this moment of like, no one is helping her. And I kept repeating, no one is gonna help her with that table. No one is gonna help her with that table. I got angry, I got frustrated. She was able to do this in a way where she was talking to me and showing me something that I was living a lot. And being able to do that kind of work where you could just be able to talk about this moment, this feeling, and it doesn't need to be very specific. It's just like this relatability aspect. I don't know if it can ever be concrete, all because concrete is very specific. Like, you know, you have like this mixture and then you mix with water and then you mix it and then it turns into this thing. With the emotions that we have to deal with in our existence, it's so complex that it's almost nearly impossible. All you could do with all of our works collectively as Black people, it doesn't even hit the surface of what it feels like to exist as a Black person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'll just stop there.
I almost feel like you answered for everybody.
I mean,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
If y'all feel that way, I was gonna say, if y'all feel that way, we can just move on to.
Well, I just wanted to add to what Dom said about both of Dom's and Yana's work. Like, Yana's work where she started, and this I think should be on YouTube still, when you started first with the cat suit and going to like MoMA and these different institutions, and you had your friend behind you recording it, and you see footage of white people turning around and recording you. And, you know, and that's just one example of like what Dom is saying is like, we're experiencing that type of objectification and invisibility, all kinds of shit, and violence, like behind the scenes in the art world and up front in the real world, you know? We've had tons of discussions where like Dom shares experiences that she has with this very same people that Yana and I are dealing with, but she's having a very different experience.
Right.
More fucked up experience. And I mean, that's another conversation that needs to happen, is like the discussions, the layers and the hierarchies within the art world, within the regular world of like how a Black woman is treated and viewed, how a dark-skinned Black woman is treated and viewed, how a big Black woman is treated and viewed, a Black woman with a big ass is treated, you know, all of those things that I think that, yeah, especially when Dom and Yana, like your works to me, as I've observed through the years, is like, not only is it really cathartic, but it is really painful to watch, because it's like, shit, like y'all are just pointing to all of this pain, collective pain that, I don't know, it's not really being, y'all are addressing it, but it's, I don't know what else I want to say to that, but
yeah, I think you got it. Like, our work is trying to show you, I think all of us, our work is showing you that pain. And sometimes we hurt ourselves trying to show you that pain. And the hope is that we bring you to another place, that liminal space, where you're at this threshold that's not quite your own reality, but you're so there that you now feel and empathize with us, or you experience the feeling with us. Like, I feel like if it goes like this during a performance with the audience, then something has happened about understanding. And yeah, pain and rage is a big part of like sharing that space, getting you to that other space with us.
Awesome. Everybody's finished making comments about that particular thing? Yeah? Okay. Oh, I think you kind of answered this already. Nugent's question.
He asked about the curators, right?
Yeah, I think you answered in the chat, but maybe Ayana and Dom have different answers. So Nugent Smith has asked, there are many curators who do not take the time to research our work and assign all kinds of meanings at the surface. And as a result, Black performances do not get opportunities and recognition. Who are some curators that do the work and truly support your practice as Black performance artists / Black artists making performance art?
Just to let Yana and Dom know, I listed Kilolo, Elizabeth, Laylee, and Esther. That's who came to mind.
Maybe can you say those full names just in case?
Sorry. Yeah, sure. In the chat, Kilolo Luckett, who she's I believe still here in the participant side, who is a freelance curator, but currently is working with the August Wilson Cultural Center in Pittsburgh. There's also Elizabeth Lamb, who runs Company Gallery or works with Company Gallery. Laylee, who's, I always mess up her last name. Huzaiba. And Esther Neff, who both come from the Panoply performance-y lab world of ours. Yeah, so those are the four that I'm thinking about.
I guess we should say they're part of like the underground scene in Brooklyn. Like I guess we're not really that underground anymore. We were. Right. I feel like now there's a new crop of underground coming up, and I still say underground, but like, I feel like it's cheating. Once you're already at like museums and you're at the Venice Biennale, like we're not really underground anymore. But that was our scene.
Your New York Times spread, like, yeah, we ain't underground.
You're not underground like that. So I guess I got a quick claim in that, but like,
whoa, you in the big leagues now.
Right.
Right. Put air quotes around that though. You could always,
You know what?
Quick, you know.
You in our big leagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody else's big leagues may be a little bit different, but you're in ours. So I will not qualify that with quotes.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I'm trying to get better at accepting compliments. What was I about to say? Oh, so yeah, you listed Stephanie Baptiste.
Yes.
Medium Things. Who else have I worked with?
You worked with Artists Alliance.
Oh, okay. I was about to name Judith Tannenbaum.
Yeah.
I worked with her when I was doing the piece at the Barnes. And I mean, shout out to Judith. I turned in a proposal because they were like, you can do whatever you want. And I turned in a budget that was so far under. I turned in a budget for, I think, $1,500. And she was like, pause. We're going to redo this because this isn't enough. So like, there are people like that who really like not only understand your work, have researched your work, they won't let you slip when you move to another level and you don't know what to ask for. Rocio, I should talk about. Rocio is at the
Ford Foundation.
Ford Foundation. I was gonna say she's who I worked with though at El Museo del Barrio. Who else should I be saying? Wait, you just said somebody. Oh, of course, Artists Alliance.
Yeah.
So, well, Dom has also worked with them. So I'll let you.
Alessandro Fasante and Judy. Jody. What's Jody's last name? I'm sorry, Jody.
Weinberg. I hope.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, okay. You know what? Low key, some of my best performance curators is ourselves in between us curating each other for shit, you know, and just like calling on each other, be like, I need you, and saying, okay, I swoop in. Like you text me at midnight and say, Dom, I'm doing a thing. First thing I'm gonna tell you, I'm like, cool, when, where, what you need, you know, especially if we're homies, and I don't even question that shit, you know, because I trust you. And it doesn't matter, like, you know, where the space is or whatever. So, especially if we do have an opportunity, I'm going to bring back El Museo again when Yana was doing that residency. He literally took her residency and just dissected it in such a way where she brought in so many people. And at that time, I was like, you know, in a low point in my career. And I wouldn't say low, I was in the dry spell. And, you know, and she called me and I was sitting on the toilet at the time because that's what we do. Just like, you know, just talking shit. And just like, you know, she's like, so I was thinking while I was like doing this, because we're on the phone, we're planning everything together on the phone. And she's like, I was thinking, like, you know, you could bring, like, you know, your quota over here, da, da, da. And she did it so matter-of-factly. It was something that I have never experienced. And I go, wait, did you just ask me to, like, you know, do an installation over there? She's like, yeah. And then I kind of teared up. I don't know if I ever told you that, because I'm like,
you never told me that.
Like, because I was like, it's so hard, and I can't believe I'm saying this. It's really a little hard to, like, you know, like, what's the word I'm looking? Find love, sisterhood, brotherhood, and whatever, and acceptance in the art world among your peers. And I'm a huge sort of like person where I believe in like supporting the work first and foremost. You don't need to be my friend. That's how I am.
You are. I'm not.
My work. I know.
You shade me now.
Right. Like I can be so many people's cheerleaders just on the fact of the work. You don't need to ever promote me. You never need to mention my name. I don't care about that. But
no. You take it a step further. People are mean to you sometimes.
People
and I
always
actually say their name to a curator with love. And if people watching don't know that, y'all should know that about her. I'm praying to get to that point. But she's there. She will mention your name and you don't even return her little friend request on Facebook. That's real.
But I really don't care. And for me, with how I do the work and the way, like, again, if we're friends or whatever, you ask me to be part of it, and you're like, you're curating the show, you're doing this, boom. And to go back to, and all of this is going back to all of it is connected to what Nugent asked. Because what's worse about when someone wants your performance or want your body, for some of my friends, they want my friends to be naked because they're good looking, or they want their bodies and they want that body and that presence. For some people, they want something else, or they want that very specific work. So you're like, you know, that kind of like that last bit of like, you know, that dash of whatever you're sprinkling on there, you weren't a first thought. And what ends up happening, how you're treated gets to be like exhausting. And it's a level of like, you know, pulling at you in the most gruesome way, because never mind the body that's like getting hit and all the mental aspect, but the fact that on some levels, even if you're being asked, you're being disrespected on multiple levels, because when they ask you to come in, they don't understand the work. They're not asking you questions if they don't understand. And they do things where it's just more hurtful. And I'll give you an example. I did a performance with the Rap on Race with Rice somewhere, and then it ended up getting like, you know, for lack of, they threw away my rice. I'm just gonna leave it there.
You want me to tell?
No.
I'm ready.
And that goes back to that question of when you don't understand and you're not communicating with the artist, you're doing more damages to that person, that body, that mind, and their practice. You might even dissuade that person from ever doing performance again because of how you treat that person. So you don't give them enough money, you don't treat them like they're the paintings on the wall that they need to sign contracts even if they ask, none of those things. So they're not protected in so many ways. So the few times when I've worked with someone and I felt love and care, aside from all those curators they mentioned, is each other when we work with each other.
Yeah, I do think when we work with each other, there's an ease. Because sometimes you feel like you jump through the hoop to get in the show, which I know all different categories of art go through that. And I mean, I'm including music, everything. Like sometimes you feel like I got to jump through this hoop, like the invited to apply thing. It's like, you like me, but you still want me to like give you my resume. Mm-hmm. And if the resume is good enough, then the actions now become more valid.
You got to audition.
Right. That's a whole nother like level to like, but some curators are like, I like your actions, I like your work, I've deep dived through you, and I don't have to explain anything to them. It's just like, let's just build a beautiful thing together. Mm-hmm. But some people see you as like salt or sprinkling on the top of a show. Mm-hmm. And if you're just sprinkled on top, I don't need to look into you much. I don't need to pay you much.
Call it what it is. You're the entertainment. You know, yes. You come here to dance. So right. Like, you know, whatever.
And it's like, oh, well, I'm not being taken that serious because I'm here to shuck and jive for you.
Yeah.
And if I don't bring a certain energy to my shuck and jive within this like 10-minute moment at your thing, then, you know, you don't consider it good, first of all.
And you don't get added to the book. You do not get added to the book. Add artists, performance artists to the goddamn book. I'm sorry if I'm cussing and whatever. It's disrespectful, because if you really want people to get a true sense of what a show is about, that's why you invited performance artists, no matter what they are, black, white, yellow, green, purple. You brought them in so they could understand with immediacy what the works are about, what the show is about. And when you omit them from that record, you are doing more harm to them in their practice and everybody else. And that's a problem.
Yeah, it's an erasure. It's a flat out erasure.
It's like, erasure.
This is stuff that I've been at, but like there's nowhere online you can see my name. Yep. You can't find me on the Queens Museum site anywhere, but the performance happened.
Right.
Right.
And so that documentation over and over again for their own.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, your picture will be shown, and you making them look diverse, interesting, avant-garde, like all the things. But then they don't want to give you the press support, which that's not even financial. But sometimes people don't realize that because they're thinking of you as this thing that comes, like the clown came and the clown left.
Right. Sometimes they won't even have water for you. I'm like, really? You're not even offering me water?
Yeah. Oh, we should also shout out Ada and Hosey.
Yep.
Down in the Baltimore area. Well, I don't even know if they're still staying in Baltimore because Hosey was in Tulsa for a certain amount of time with Lab Bodies. Yep. They're wonderful to work with.
Jessica Davis, Art on the Vine. He will take care of
Man, preach about it. And these are people that pay you. These are people who make sure you have documentation. These are people who promote you properly. These are people who try to connect you to collectors and do not keep the name of the collector from you so that they have a weird stronghold on you. Emma Saperstein and Cynthia Post-Hunt with Inverse.
Yes.
They don't have a lot of money, but what they do that I respect, and I can't say enough how I want other people to copy this model. They will attach you to a local museum or university, get you a little gig, and then your cash comes from that, but you will also perform at Inverse.
Yeah.
And it's free. You know what I mean? It's free to the public. They let the artists show up and do their thing, no matter how strange or weird or this or that, and they go to bat for you. If you want to jump up and down, and the people at the hotel or wherever you're located at are like, we don't know about jumping. They step in for you. So I think it's important to shout those people out, but they also do performance sometimes.
Right. Also, Bufu Collective. Yeah, they don't have a lot of money, but they're ride or die.
Very.
They will do all the things to make your work turn out as best as possible, and they'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, and I should also say, just to say it, like, if a museum has, I don't know how many people in the audience are performance artists, but this happened to me early on and I wish I had known. If a museum or like a big institution approaches you and they're like, oh, just for exposure, meaning they're not paying you anything, nothing. They don't even set up your documentation sometimes, or sometimes they try to sell you on, we'll have a photographer at hand, and that photographer might not follow you. Mm-hmm. That's a thing. Mm-hmm. If you're not,
they won't even put you on the website.
Yep.
It's a thing. So if that happens, if someone says to you, like, we want you for exposure, we're gonna offer you some exposure, we're not gonna pay you, say hell no. Right. There's a budget. There is a budget. And I know because I've been there living off like $15,000 a year. And that's a choice in my opinion, because for me, it was because I was like, I'm gonna do everything I can with this art on the street and blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to spend a lot of time doing that. But at the same time, at that point, $50, $100 would have made a big difference. And I think sometimes I will say I've met curators who said they didn't want to offer anything because they felt they couldn't offer enough. But there's a point in your career where offering me dinner means the world. Yeah. And you never know when I have slipped back down so bad financially, it's gonna mean the world this week, So I just want to say, like, if you have 25 and that's all you got, still put that out there for the artist to know. Don't be embarrassed about where you are as a curator. So you withhold. So you're basically saving face.
Yeah.
But you're hurting us by saving face. I'm not gonna tell people you broke, but it helps me if I know that's the situation. Because I'm going above and beyond if I know that's the situation. Okay, let's call in some favors. Let's get this photography for free. Let's get it for $50. Such and such owes me a favor anyway. I'm willing to do that. And for the white curators, I will say, I'm personally someone, if you need the name of Black artists and you feel embarrassed because you don't know those names, hit me up. Almost every Black performance artist, I got their contact. I got their cell phone. Yeah. I'm not ashamed.
Why are you laughing?
She knows I do it. She knows I do that. I will call people up. I send messages. Some of y'all.
Why you put me on blast?
Snicker.
I'll be like, hey, hey, you know, I'm connecting these people. I want you to know.
One of the things I think is important to say, particularly in this moment where like we have clearly demonstrated that we have the capacity and the power to like change this entire structure that we're working in, these people work for you, period. Like that's how you should be treating this, the end. Like there is no whole museum structure, there is no gallery structure. It doesn't exist if there are not artists at the center of it, period. Why are we here if that's not what we're talking about? That's kind of how I feel. I want to ask one last question. I think this is actually a good way to end it. This question is from Amy Braden. Do y'all see your friendship and collaborations as intentionally anti-capitalist, rejecting the individualism in the US, or is that a happy accident or byproduct? That's the question.
I'll say it's intentional and necessary. I mean, in a lot of ways, we were not within the capitalist system anyway. As performance artists, you've already made a decision that you're kind of stepping outside of that a little bit. But necessary in that, how do you float when you've left capitalism? You got to lean on each other and like really love each other and be like, oh, you need toilet paper? Bet. I'm about to send you some. Like that's necessary. So some of it's necessary. And then I love y'all, like real talk, like all y'all, like I love y'all. Like y'all know I've been mushy all week. That Times article came out and I was like, I love everybody. Oh my God. Like I love y'all. Like, and I know y'all got my back. And I know if I don't ever get no more press, you still gonna talk to me. And like to me, that's it. It's like what holds us together.
I think, and to piggyback off of that, and hey, Amy, that was Amy Braden. Y'all know her because she's the one who did the Artist Mother Studio I used to be a part of, the residency. Her partner makes amazing food and sends it to us like once a week. Anyways, so shout out to Alex. But to add to that, like, yeah, I think like Yana's saying is like, we've kind of, when you decide to do performance art, you are operating in an anti-capitalist setting because, well, now it's changing because it's like trending, but when we were kind of coming up and doing it, I mean, what, we're going to fight over a $50 honorarium? Like, it's just, because the pay was so low, it was so DIY, underground, all those things, like Yana said, it's like, it took out the competition. What are we competing against, like, for? So what it meant that was, I'm showing up, I'm driving from DC to New York, you know, I mean, and at that time I was working as a doula. So like, I'm like off of no sleep, had pulled an all-nighter with some mom at the hospital. And I'm like hitting up Yana and Dom. I'm like, okay, can somebody stop by the bodega and pick up Anchamame syrup, bleached rice, all these things. Dom, can you show up with your camera to document it? I already know Yana's gonna document a bunch of shit on her cell phone. Like, you know, and I show up and it's like, what do you need? Okay, I need you to be a plant in the audience. Like, you do this. When I say this, I need you to throw this. Or so that's basically how we've come up and operated. And now that, like, yes, our careers are flourishing, which they should be. Like, damn, we put in the fucking work for many, many years. But it's like, what's beautiful is that we still carry that. You know, we still bring that to the table, even though we may be getting the attention. We're definitely, you know, we're getting paid more, all these different things. But yeah, so.
Sometimes I'm just in love with the artist and I want to know what that conversation would look like as an art form. So it's like, like jam session, you know how like, you know, musicians have jam session, they just hang out, you stop by and you come in. I think, what's that song with D'Angelo and what's his name? I think it's You Should Be.
Yeah.
That song was written with like Sadiq, like, you know, stopping by he needed beat. Yep. And then he knew, like, you know, that, like, you know, he was gonna have weed, and he just stopped by his studio, and then they just like collaborated. Yeah. For me, there's a space in, I don't even want to call it collaboration. You know, it just feels like such a heavy loaded word. For me, it's like, it's communication. I'm communicating with you, you communicating with me. Because there are times I'll be talking to Yana and I break out into Creole. She'll bust out laughing. And I'm like, I'm doing it again. But she understands me because I do it so often.
Yeah, like a baby. I had to just learn the word.
And the reason why I'm bringing that up, for me, even when I've curated, I pick artists based on what I know what they're going to do. I'll just say, yo, Yana, I need you for something. Like, you know, she's like, well, what do you want? She doesn't even ask me that anymore. I'm like, you do you, whatever you want. Like, you know, because it's not even so much carte blanche as much as like, I know your work. I know what you're going to do. I don't need to baby you. So this means if I'm ever live, which has happened before, this happened in Newark, where I'm screaming. But the reason why I was screaming, it was like people couldn't hear me. And Yana realized people weren't paying attention to me. She's coming down. I'm screaming for her, for people to get attention to her. She's screaming so people could get attention on me. So it was more like, oh, I'm holding you, you holding me, and we're doing our thing. It wasn't like, oh, I'm rehearsing this thing. It was just happening. And when you know that person's work, and you're just like vibing, that's all you do. You just like let it go. It's like this vulnerability between friends, between two people, between two colleagues. And you're just like, you know, in a jam session, basically, that's happening live or even behind closed doors. I would love to have, like, you know, a few of those jam sessions with some of my favorite artists. And I know some of them are not interested in collaborating, and that's fine. I'm totally fine. One of the things that I do is just be present. This is something that I try to do a lot. I try to be present for people. Like, I just like peek in to just be there for the performance or for your opening or for your talk. I will travel far. I will go to Queens. I will go to Harlem. I'll go to Brooklyn. I will go as where I can. If I'm available, I will trek to go, just so when you look up, there's a familiar face, a family member right here to keep you stable at the end of the day. Because I know there are times where I just needed someone to be there to, like, you know, through the chaos, where I just needed an anchor. And having one of those faces, a friend, just seeing that person just anchors me. And I try to be an anchor for people. And I bring that up in terms of, like, I don't think about the capitalist aspect. I don't know if it's a happy accident. I was brought up to share my food, and that's what I continue to do. I continue to share with my friend, meaning if my friend is having a rut and they're not gonna say, help me, it's up to me to realize they're in the rut for me to do something when the opportunity presents itself. Be like, are you down to do something with me? And if you don't answer me, I will not take that as a diss or anything. I still love you at the end of the day. It just means you don't want to do anything. That's cool. And if you say, yeah, Dom, what we gonna do? Be like, whatever you want to do. This is your moment, because I've been given those moments. And this is my way to ultimately say thank you and to, like, give to another.
That's such a good point. That also points to the fact that, like, what you're describing is very Black, which is why I know we've had this discussion too, where we've been in situations where within the Black art world, there's such hierarchies. And I'd be looking at people like, weren't you raised right? Like, what the fuck? Like, you were taught you were taught to share. You were taught to bring everybody up with you. Like, what is this like? And I'm quoting Rashayla Marie Brown in this because she put this in a post recently and in a group chat. Why are you trying to be the talented 10th? Like, you're real comfortable being the only person in the room. You're really comfortable with keeping it very exclusive and not inclusive. And that is not how we were raised.
It's not. It boils down to you not loving each other.
Yep.
I mean, even in food, we still do it afterwards. Even if one of us don't have money, be like, how many times have like, I'll be like, Yana, let's go eat. And you'll be like, girl, I'll be like, I didn't ask you to pay.
I mean, I can't eat right now.
and then like, you know, I'm the type of person, as a girlfriend, as a wife, as a friend, I could go to McDonald's and then share fries with you. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. So this means in art, because the slots are so limited, I refuse to feed that fuel. So that means if my opportunity is a chicken wing or French fries, I'm gonna share it with somebody. I'm gonna share it with somebody. Yep. And it doesn't need to be the immediate people that you think. It's more like, you know, and you might not need me. I don't think you need me, and I'm not using you. That's the other thing. People, I've had this problem a lot. People thinking that I'm using them as a succubus to just climb. I'm not. I really don't. Yeah. I really do believe in love, and I believe in the art, and I believe in, like, you know, just being there for someone. So when someone gets, like, you know, looks at me and like, what are you up to? Like, you know, whatever, you're trying to like use me. And I can't be mad at those people because they have had a lot of people use them. But on the real, sometimes I just want to, like, you know, work with you. Sometimes the idea I have is so specific to that person. Right. It's like a script writer, a director who can only envision this one actor for this piece. And if that actor says no, they say, forget it, I'm not gonna do it. Sometimes it's like that. And then sometimes it's just a matter of like, you know what, I just want to be with my homies. I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thank you again so much. The three of you just blew me away. And I think most of those in this audience, there's still 69 people because it counts the four of us as participants. Thank you all for hanging in with us. It's like, what, 3:15-ish? So appreciate, you said, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Also, this red.
Yana,
Fenty. Yana. Yo, Yana, I love it. There it is. So they know, look, shout out to Quincy. He bought this because I broke it in a performance.
Oh, nice.
A funeral for this on Facebook. But yeah.
Well, thanks everyone so much again. Forgive me for my like scatteredness. And if the three of you can stay for a few minutes after, I'd appreciate it. But everyone else, thank you so much for being here. Also, in the comments, I'm going to ask you a question right now, but just tell me if you will or not. Should I do one next week? I know it's 4th of July. I don't know what people are planning, so I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do. Tell us how you feel, Tasha.
Tell us. Are people gonna be doing barbecues during this
people,
lunchtime?
look, somebody invited me to a barbecue today and it's raining. So I mean, I don't know.
I would say take a rest. I don't know.
I mean, we had an action last week and we may have an action next week, Saturday as well. That's why I didn't do it last week. So I'm like, I don't know. Thank you. I wouldn't be resting. I would be in Washington Square Park doing the things for the people. So I would not be at home sleeping, sadly. But again, thank you. I appreciate y'all's lives. Your lives, your vibes, just everything that you do within your practice, within your personhood, just your relationship with each other is really beautiful to watch. I was kind of crying. Just
thank you, friends.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
Y'all three don't go nowhere though.
No, we're not going.
Okay.
And now